live on YouTube as well. Okay, so you can start talking.
Yeah.
With the names now.
Should I plug in the headphones?
To listen to yourself?
No, for this Zello.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to day 1 of SRS Skywalk edition 2026. We are coming to you live and exclusive from Bassano del Grappa, the Italian Dolomites in all its might, and we have about 133 pilots racing the skies from more than 30 countries coming in to you, heading towards the first turn point. And the conditions are fairly slow for the day, even though it's a late start. This place today is expected to get a bit more stronger as we proceed. Most of the gaggle has just tagged the first turn point and are heading towards the second one, which also happens to be one of the longest legs of the race. So in total, a 70-kilometer task has been set by the race committee, and we see at least 5 to 6 turn points depending upon the route chosen by the participants. Big names joining us in the race, some of the finest talent we have seen in sports class category. One of the most noticeable names being that of Paul Tuckerts, who is joined by his wife Monica Tuckerts, a very firm advocate of sports class racing, has been enjoying it to the core, has been proving his mettle not just with the E and C category gliders but even with the high B gliders, simply because of the fact that he has played the game long enough to know how to make it count when it matters the most. A little bit of early jitter for some pilot where there were some bomb outs, but more or less at an average we are seeing speeds of 30 to 40 in the straight line glides with an altitude of anywhere between 300 to 700 meters above ground level, but this is expected to change as the day progresses, and we will have cloud tops reaching higher than hopefully 2000 meters and beyond. Talking about today's flying weather, I would say we have some classic spring conditions in the foothills of Venetian Dolomites, and right now there are a little bit of northerly wind on the ground, nothing too significant, maybe 2 to 4 kilometers per hour, which is typical for Bassano. Expect this to be a bit overruled when the sun really heats up the slopes later on in the day, and the climbs will climb up as the mid-afternoon thermal development works its way. Cloud base should be expected around 2000 meters, and anywhere between +3 to +4 is an average recommended lines that pilots can follow. Wind at altitude can be a bit of a hit and a miss because there is a small northerly component coming in, although if you are racing fast and low then there's a bit of a ridge running to be done, although that does not come without a safety note because valley crossings in Bassano can be a bit tricky, and this is where a lot of people will have to decide whether they push for it or whether they take the safety note or whether they take the safe way and try to maintain their altitude. You're joining us from the landing field of Garden Reales, which happens to be the hub of paragliding here in Bassano del Grappa. This place is no stranger to paragliding. It has seen some of the finest racers of the community come here and win big, and today is no different when we have a category 2 event on having almost 77 WPRS points on offer, which also tells you the level of the sport and the competition today. And one of the more noticeable names that is joining us is the pilot from Romania. That pilot has been racing in the World Cups as well. If I'm not mistaken, his name is Tudor. Flies fairly fast, has been competing with the Enzos on a Photon, if I'm not mistaken, and his full name is Tudor Durabanto. We also have multiple feeds coming in from the gaggle. We will be bringing you live and exclusive coverage from the pilots, where we bring them with the reactions, telling you how it's going. So stay tuned. A lot of exciting stuff coming your way, and one of the first ones in those is that we have a very amazing launch from the BGD. BGD have recently come out with their brand new lightweight ENC glider called Tigra. So spoiler alert, we have a pilot who is testing it out and flying the wing in the lead gaggle, and we have some really amazing network connection which is showing you the live view from the pilot. And as we can see, not very crowded thermals here, a bit low over the flats, because today's task is a bit of a mix of a flat and mountain flying. So it is testing the pilots on various skill levels as we proceed. In case your internet connections are not supporting the bandwidth, I would recommend you to log on to srs.live. We also have live text commentary running there with the photos by very capable Ruth Jessop. Ruth has been running the social media site for SRS for quite a while, and before that she has been coming in from her extensive experience in the Paragliding World Cup channels all across. So a person dedicated to flying, devoted to make it her mission to bring you all the latest action, is doing her own bit. So go ahead and choose your way of following the race, because we are bringing you total non-stop action for the coming hours until we finally see the first pilots coming into goal. In case you're wondering, I'm your host Aninder Singh, and I'm joining you from the commentary box right here in the Hotel Garden Realis. As the day progresses, we will be bringing you multiple viewpoints and camera actions. We have pilots flying in the gaggle. This is unprecedented for the sport of paragliding. Probably the first time we are seeing such live coverage, all thanks to Marco, the owner of Paragliding Live, who had a dream and has relentlessly worked hard to bring us all this action from our seats. So be sure to log on to paraglidinglive.com. Multiple streams running of the competition across various platforms, from Twitch to YouTube and every other possible location, such as Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp channels. So pick your preference, join us in whichever way you can. Do let us know where you're joining us from. We would love to give you a shout out and welcome you and your friends, because overall it's a very solid taskable day. Excellent conditions for the sports class pilot to show what the talent can produce on ENC wings, and with a fast-paced 70-kilometer racing task, I think it would be an understatement to not mention that this is creme de la creme of ENC category, showing us what these wings are capable of. Throughout the day, we'll also bring you multiple feedbacks from our sponsors and their exciting gear launches. So a lot is in store for the day. Get comfortable, bring whatever you have to make sure that next 2 hours you're joining us for this multi-broadcast feed happening for the first time in a cross-country competition, taking place right here in the Mecca of European Alps for paragliding. Right now we have Yossi from Colombia joining us. Hello Yossi, thank you for joining. And Max, in case you're wondering when is the stream starting, I think your questions have been answered now. The stream is live and kicking. As you can see, the lead gaggle pilot racing on his ENC wing Tigra. That's quite a nice name, I would say. I'm very excited to have a chat with him later on as he gets us his first-hand experience of piloting this brand new wing out there. And it's quite exciting to see multiple manufacturers come up with their own releases in this category, because once we have seen the CCC market fairly saturated by very few manufacturers, it kind of takes the fun out of it. But ENC sports class, which is also being called as racing for the new generation, is bringing that survival of the fittest competition back in the field. So a lot of things to look forward to, and turn point 1 is the first of them, where we see our lead pilot Mark Heyman gliding at a speed of 37 km/h at an average, fairly high above the ground, somewhere around 400 to 500 meters, followed closely by Ian Douglas. Although Ian finds himself a lot lower, so there's a bit of a catching up to do. But Andreas Malecki and Mark Heyman are basically going wingtip to wingtip with about a 50-meter difference in their height. And then there's, of course, a group of pilots chasing them, trying to hunt them down, but conditions aren't the easiest for everyone for high altitude racing. So this is one of those days where you have to pick and choose your lines. If you're too aggressive, you could find yourself on the ground fairly quickly, because as we all know, when we fly, thermals are easier and much bigger once you are higher up. The lower you go, I mean, the lead points are there for catch and for up for grabs, but that also means more turning and more risk. So a lot of exciting things to look forward to. I quickly want to give a shout out to our main man Paul Tuckat's here, along with his friend Christian Durant. Christian is also having a fair bit of work to do, as he's not very high above the ground. But not to forget the female champion Riley Frey following them close behind at an altitude of 700 meters with about 100 to 200 meters above ground level. But I must remind you, the ground level altitude does not mean above flats. In case these pilots are scratching close to the mountain tops, then probably the GPS data is also picking the ground level where they are currently flying. So eventually, as the day progresses, we'll also bring you local commentators who will tell us a bit about the local conditions. But a big shout out to our sponsor for the event, Skywalk. Skywalk is joining us with a very strong factory team, bringing in their best of the best. And quite recently, I had a chance to meet with their factory pilot, who also happens to be their harness designer. And in case you guys can guess the name of the person that I'm speaking about, drop it in the chat below, because within the next few minutes I'll tell you the star of the show, who is not flying with us today because he is still traveling back from the super final where he was racing again for the Skywalk team. And he's no stranger to any of us. He has raced in the Alps, raced in some of the most finest competitions, one of the most amazing wing handlers, and an amazing person to talk to. We'll probably have him in the commentary box in the coming days. And today, since he's traveling, will be one of his discard days. So do let us know what you think in the chat, the pilot that I'm talking about. And right now we are back to live action, where we are gliding over scenic Bassano del Grappa foothills with a fairly big valley crossing coming up front. Now, for those pilots who have flown this area, they really know that these valley crossings are not to be taken lightly, because this is where you can make or break the race depending upon how you approach it. But cross-country flying is all about tactics and figuring out how to navigate your course in the shortest possible time. So for the viewers who are joining us right now, I would like to remind you that we are coming to you live and exclusive from the 15th sports class racing competition, which happens to be the Skywalk edition in the location of Bassano del Grappa. This is the second event of the 2026 season, and sports class racing is being termed as the racing for newer generation, because more or less this is where the pilots can perfect their skills. So in case you are a pilot who wants to go out and start competing, this can be your first entry level comp, simply because of the fact that you are flying with a level field of flyers who are racing their ENB and ENC category pilots, ENC category gliders, I beg your pardon, which means that no high-end two-liner workload demands before you go in and invest all your time, energy and money, because paragliding is not the cheapest sport out there. So in case you have been wondering how it feels to fly with 100 other humans and try to tag the first turn point before everyone else, then go to SRS.live, check out your next opportunity. Although the competition has been fairly popular amongst every pilot in this classification, that's why a lot of times we have seen SRS repeatedly come up with qualifier events. And to be honest, when you have 77 WPRS points up for grabs, I think it is only fair that some of the finest talent is given a chance to prove their point. To get you up to date, we are joined live by Mark Janoway. Mark Janoway happens to be one of the rising talent in the SRS community. He has been racing fairly regularly, flying a perfect combination of Genie Race 5 and the BGD Tegra, which, as we mentioned earlier, is a brand new release from the BGD in their lightweight ENC category. So in case you are looking to fly a wing which does not take a lot of your kilograms while traveling from one place to another on the airline luggage, yet gives you all the fun and accessibility that you need for a cross-country competition, then do check out BGD Tegra. Probably more information will be available on their official website. and we'll be sure to bring you pilot reactions after the race on how they have had it so far. But coming back to live streaming, the pilots are almost reaching 60% mark of the first turn point. So from here on, it's more or less halfway towards the first turn point, and Mark Heyman once again leading the pack, collecting all the points that come in when you show the way for the others. So a little bit of stats here: average speed closing in on 40 to 50 kilometers per hour depending upon the type of air and the usage of speed bar. Vario readings are kind of measured between +2 and -2 depending upon the air mass that they're going through, but that is for the leaders. As far as we're concerned about the gaggles, there's no such one big gaggle. We have about 20 to 30 pilots spread out over the course in various locations, and these pilots can be seen marking the air. So one of the easiest ways to learn cross-country flying is to come down to these competitions and try and see what the other pilots are doing, and watch and learn is one of those places where you become a better pilot overall. Some of the names in the second gaggle are Alexei Bolrev, Augusto Slizard, I hope I'm saying their name correctly, Kavian Arinpour, and Kuilia Solda. Most of these pilots are able to maintain an altitude of 700 to about 1,000 meters, so some of them are staying high above the ground with more than 500 meters to spare. And when you come in with this kind of altitude, it does give you a bit of a peace of mind because you are able to catch the thermal at its midpoint or at a stronger point, which is a lot more easier than coming in low. Although this is not always the case, as a lot of times you have to collect the leading points and the time points, and when the field is fairly strong, you do have to keep on pushing so that you're able to find all the details that are required to put yourself on the podium. Coming back to live stream, we are joined with Mark Janaway. If you go to top left corner of your screen, you can see that there is a telemetry display showing us his altitude, his variometer reading, as well as his speed for the moment right now. So quite a fair bit of technically advanced setup by Paragliding Live, bringing you exclusive racing action from the foothills of Italian Dolomites here in Bassano del Grappa, where we have more than 130 pilots from more than 30 countries racing to pick the finest of the Sports Class Racing Championship. A bit about Sports Class Racing Championship. This was not the norm until a couple of years ago, and that was when a small little technical change in the rules which allowed certification of ENC gliders with collapse lines, allowing manufacturers to come out with a brand new category of gliders where we finally see the reduction of drag that comes with the construction of a two-liner coming down to accessibility of ENC category. Earlier, two-liners were only staying END and beyond, which obviously had their own challenges for the pilots across the world, where the workload demand to fly them well meant that you had to stay current, you had to stay very on the point. But now with Sports Class Racing Series we have that problem solved, even though two-liners still demand all the experienced and they still need E and B category to be fairly well exploited before pilots want to reach a level playing field of E and C. But overall, we see that races in this category are designed to challenge and develop the flying rather than just proving a point. So a very accessible FAI category 2 competition for the audiences out there who like the art of flight and the excitement that comes with seeing the world from above. And that's exactly what we can see right now in this city of Pove del Grappa. So there's quite a bit of a history about paragliding in Bassano del Grappa, because this site has been in the paragliding circles for quite a while, and the reason for that is that it is one of the most popular, accessible, gives you the opportunity for hike and fly, and then the launches are varied and wide, and most importantly, it is often called the paragliding paradise because it has got varied terrain, reliable thermals, and the year-round flyability, which a lot of other places do not have in European or in the northern hemisphere in Europe. Reaching this place has been fairly easy over a period of years because it was quite an important town for long back in the history, where it has been used for various resources during the conflicts and such events, which, to be honest, also gave it a bit of a historical charm, because there are some iconic monuments and some amazing distilleries that helps you come to this place, not just for the art of flight, but for a lot more that life offers along with the sport of paragliding. Let's dive back into the live action. Right now we have Mark Janaway circling about 400 meters above ground level, and Mark is finding it fairly easy to go back on full bar with such a height. Along with that, I think it's time for me to answer the pilot name that I asked you guys to guess, and I am talking about none other than Marcus Anders. Marcus Anders has been one of the finest wing handlers in the paragliding community, where we have repeatedly seen him chase the glory in some of the remotest corners of the world in the hike and fly category. He has been in the Red Bull athlete for quite a while. He has been an integral part of the Skywalk R&D team, has got a bunch of sponsors supporting him, flies a Skywalk Mint, an ENC sports class wing, wherein he proves his mettle in not just endurance flying or adventure flying or hike and fly, but also as an integral member of the technical insight of the R&D team, as he contributes to the harness and the wing development from a real world perspective. More than 4 Red Bull X Alps participations, has been a regular face at the super final, regularly gets strong results at the hike and fly, such as the Dolomiti Superfly and the Saleva Iron Fly, has been chasing the podium consistently in other races such as Ex-Pyrenees, Bordeaux, and usually is in the average competition WPRS ranking of 30 to 40. So Marcus will be joining us from tomorrow, because today he is still on his way from Pegalahar, where we had 15th Paragliding World Cup Super Final Championships, which was also covered by Paragliding Atlas. So in case you're interested, head over to Paragliding Atlas, where you can see daily highlights. It was quite a scintillating competition, but with a whole different level of category of wings with triple Cs, which also happen to be the fastest wings that are certified for racing. We are back with Mark now, and Mark is getting a tiny bit low. As you can see, he is trying to circle even when he's going full bar, losing a bit of altitude there with about 200 meters above ground level. So pilots have been consistently getting low, if I'm honest. And right now we see a little bit of rough air coming in at that level. So we might see some early landings in this competition. We have already seen some pilots bomb out right after the takeoff, because it wasn't the most easiest of the days to climb. And from what we can see is that Mark is flanked by two other pilots, which are also finding themselves fairly low. So overall, we are still being led by the duo of Andreas Malecki, and we have a new leader, and that is none other than a man himself, Paul Tackert, who is gliding in the screaming speed of 55 km/h. Although we do have one of our streamers, Mark, on the ground. We'll be sure to get you his reactions, but this does tell you that conditions aren't the easiest for racing. So today's task will require a fair bit of tactical and strategical planning to make sure who gets on the podium eventually at the end of the day. But as we all know that every single pilot has one discard, wherein their worst day can be discarded without much worry. So Mark has not lost out on anything big other than having one single day where he might need to gather his courage, read the day a bit better. A bit disappointing for any single pilot, as you can see. Not the happiest of the faces there, but I think we all know that feeling, that cross-country flying comes with the simplicity of having to deal with the bomb outs as well. So a lot of exciting things to look forward to today, and if I'm supposed to go back to the live tracking, then the top 3, or I would say top 5, are being comprised of Andreas Malecki, Paul Tackert, Castro, Johnson, Mark Heyman, and Carvalho wrapping up the top 10, where most of them are able to find themselves in the altitude level of somewhere between 900 to 1000 meters above mean sea level, which means the leaders of the pack are able to stay high, and the following pilots who are in the position 10 to 30th are probably 100-200 meters higher, although with that they do miss out a bit on the leading points. So you win some, you lose some, and basically if you are able to stay up, you do risk bombing out, like we see from our live feed of Mark right now. Although that does not mean that it's all over. As I mentioned, the discard allows pilots to basically let go of one day and still come back with renewed focus for the coming ones. In case you're wondering why is Mark topless, that is because the sun is screaming in all its might in the land of Bassano del Grappa, where we have about 19 degrees centigrade, which is expected to rise somewhere up to 26 in the coming days as the time progresses. But this is when the shadows are the smallest and the sun is at its highest, so we do expect conditions to probably get a bit more stronger, but that does not mean that strategy will be out of the place. A lot of this actually also depends on choosing your lines. As we can see, Paul Tuckert's deciding to do his own thing, which he always does, and that is going a bit deeper into the mountains, deviating from the optimal course line and trying to make it more effective that way, because the flats, even though they are working, they are much slower than the mountains, and usually in these conditions getting high and staying high is one of the safest ways to proceed. Although I must mention, when it comes to leading points, the most amount of leading points don't just come from leading anywhere on the course line. The most effective leading points are coming in when you're closest to the most optimal line. So even though you might be able to score more time points, the pilot who is following the most optimal line to the next goal will inevitably be in a better position, provided they do not lag too far behind. So almost 70% way throughout the first turn point, and this is probably the longest leg, as we mentioned in the beginning of the stream, that this is where it will matter the most, because the next turn point is a little bit outwards into the flats, which further carries on even more so while going in for the third turn point. So not an easy task, but a very exciting task depending upon the field and the quality of it. And to be honest, the speed of the race has been a bit slower than expected, because even at 2 o'clock we are seeing an average climbs of not more than +2 in best case scenarios. So a lot of times we are seeing consistent vario readings of +1 to +1.5, although that is expected to be changed. But just to get you up to the current standings, we have at least 15 pilots who have landed out already. So quite a lot of dynamic movement going on in the field. I'm pretty sure even though there is a discard, there will be a fair bit of mix up in the leaderboard due to today, because we are almost 7 kilometers away from the first turn point of the task, which means more or less the top leaders have already flown the distance of nearly 25 kilometers in the past few minutes. So stay tuned. Do not forget to like and subscribe and drop in your comments into the chats. We have a lot of exciting stuff coming your way. We will be bringing you the rising stars, the team action, and most importantly, the interviews from the winners of the day by the end of the stream. So we do have a lot of other POVs and streams that will be coming your way. A lot of times we have some technical glitches that we have to take care of, because obviously having internet in the skies is a bit of a hit and miss when you are going deeper into the valleys and trying to figure out where exactly is the best signal, but the pilots have to stay focused on finding the best lines and trying to make sure that they reach the turn point before everyone else. So what's more exciting is that Paul Takats is being closely followed by Andreas Malecki. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. And Mark Heyman on the other end, who was one of the leaders of the gaggle, does found himself a bit lower than expected. So the gamble of Paul working out very well, as we can see that there is a bit more stable conditions even though they are very hot. So a tricky start to the comp, demanding conditions, but overall I think we are able to see exciting racing coming up in the next few hours. This was expected to end in a couple of hours if we have an average of 30 to 40 kilometer per hour in the trim, but with so many different things to be taken into account, such as the flying lines, the variometer readings, these thermal strengths, we will have to consistently follow and bring you whatever is being transitioning by the pilots in the live feed. So stay tuned. We are working on bringing you much better feeds. We are working on fixing what's coming your way, and meanwhile, let me tell you, by the end of the day, we have some drones which have the permission to fly amongst the paragliders that will be giving you a best case POV footage from the God's eye view, as we like to call it, because these drones will be chasing the lead group on their final glides. So a lot of exciting things to look forward to, and meanwhile we will also bring you some trivia from the land of paragliding in Bassano del Grappa. But before we do that, we have an update that Paul Takats has finally tagged the first turn point and is becoming one of the very stable leaders of the 15th SRS Skywalk Edition 2026 Task 1. And as promised, a bit of a trivia, the Monte Grappa Massif, which is affectionately called as the Mecca of paragliding in the Southern Alps, is because this site regularly opens and closes the entire European thermal flying season. The reason for that is that more or less every other alpine site in this side of the world shuts down in late autumn or takes their own time to start working in the spring condition. Bassano has its own weather and climate, which is shielded by the higher Dolomites and delivers extensively good cross-country conditions with a bit of a mix of mountain and flying condition terrain right in the front. So even though you might not be able to soar above the towering peaks in other places of the world like the Himalayas or the Andes, this is closest to what you can get to the Alps and the magic of high altitude flying in Europe without breaking a bank, if that is the right terminology to be used, because flights to Bassano are fairly easy and logistics aren't really that difficult if you come from this side of the world. So if you have ever wanted to explore how does flying look like in off season or even in good season, then this is where you should be booking your tickets, because when it comes to wind direction, cloud-based thermal strength, you do not have a lot to worry about. Coming back to the race and helping you catch up, we are still basically seeing a gaggle being stuck in a long field of pilots. So there's no per se lead gaggle which is showing the way. More or less it's just a bunch of pilots trying to work together and doing their own thing. And what we can see right now is that except for the 2 or 3 leaders up front, we do have at least 10 to 15 pilots who are trying their best to follow them and still not be left behind by much. Consistently, we can see variometer readings not crossing more than 2 or 2.5, which means stable conditions are making racing a bit more harder than planned. Although in such conditions it is always almost a proven certainty that it brings out the test, the skill of not just wing handling but also about scoring and how you read the lines. So a true test of conditions of a pilot, be it in the air or on the ground. Although more or less we also have a new stream from SRS live tracking available to you that you will be seeing on your screens very shortly. And in case you want to log on to it, feel free to punch in srs.live in your browser, which gives you all the details that you need to look at, along with the text commentary that is being provided by very capable Ruth Jessop, who has been a part of the SRS team for quite a long time. Do bear with us as we bring you more live and exclusive action. We are working to fix the cameras that should bring you immersive point of view streams from the gaggle, and along with the drone view later on, with a lot of other details that will be coming your way. So a lot of things to stay excited about. I must mention that SRS tracking is one of the only one in the sport of paragliding that does not have the same delay as the conventional paragliding World Cup live tracking. If you remember, for those pilots who have been following us on Flymaster live tracking for the super final, there is a deferred delay of 4 minutes which was enabled to prevent cheating, which in simpler words was that there were team members telling other pilots what lines were being taken by their competitors, which gave them an unfair advantage. But in SRS that has been fixed, and we are coming to you deferred only by a few seconds, and that is when we talk about the live tracking. Although this is happening, so one of the firsts in paragliding where we are bringing you footage from the sky, live action along with live commentary, all thanks to the paragliding live team and a fantastic set of volunteers. So a huge shout out to everyone who has joined us time and again to bring in this possibility to make it happen. On that note, we'll be taking a small little break, so stay tuned and we will be bringing you live coverage right away. I'm your host Aninder Singh, and I'll see you in a bit.
talk with them
Let me.
Now we unmute.
Yeah.
Hello, hello, hello. How does it work? Put it sexy.
Good.
You want a position? You need to get closer to each other.
No, I thought.
So we are both on it.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
you see there.
Oh damn. Okay, yeah. Dude, it's gonna be impossible then.
Or I can do wide angle.
Yeah. Because when I speak to you, I'm gonna look at you, or like just.
Would be better one.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we good? We live?
E poi ora che sia
We got an arm.
Oh, this is good. This is good. Perfect.
Ideal.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are live? Hello and welcome back to the live stream of 15th SRS Championship Skywalk edition happening right here in Bassano del Grappa. We are 90 minutes or a little more than that into the competition. The leaders have managed to tag the first 3 turn points, and along with me I have a pilot who is coming in right from the Gagan. Yele, thank you so much for joining.
Hey there. Thanks for having me.
Yele, early thoughts, you were at the takeoff, you launched with the gaggle, you were until there for the first turn point. How was the air like?
I didn't spend so much time because I knew, okay, the gaggle was already installed. It was one of the last to take off. So it was kind of scratchy in the first, right in front of the takeoff. It was a little bit in the lee side, it felt like it. And I took a little bit of time to get a bit higher. The higher you got, the easier it went, but still was a bit broken off. So the time I joined the gaggle, it was kind of, they were swimming on the ridge, but no one really defined a gaggle turning somewhere on a good thermal. So it was a bit creepy. And yeah, for filming, I went a bit closer, a little bit to the side, and suddenly I got something. I got a good bubble. That was like a 2 meter, 3 meters at moments, but also very broken and not defined. So tried to turn that, and then a lot of the guys joined in.
Yeah.
And we made some height. Just a couple of 2 minutes, I think, before the race started, because you had to fly out for the first turn point. There was you had to go. I mean, at 2 or 3 minutes earlier before the race really started, you already wanted to cross the line in the middle of the valley there.
Yele, these conditions are tougher than anticipated.
Yeah.
Some of the best names in the sport are finding no stronger than 2 meters or 2.5 meters per second climbs. How are the attacks looking like? What do you think about the strategy and the tactics that the leaders are employing in these conditions?
Well, it was already visual when you had the valley crossing, who arrived above the ridge for the classical first Bassano point there. It was very easy to make some height there at the right moment. I think timing is of the essence. If you have a strong climb, you should take that height, because it's not for free that you get height here. Because I pushed out for a little bit with a leading gaggle to film them. Coming back, I thought it's easy, it's Bassano, it should go up again. And but it didn't. So we were scratching a lot. And those guys who made the height went out, got the turn point, come back, and made the height higher up was easier. So I think staying high, as always, is the faster ticket.
Get high, stay high, and then life becomes a bit of a bliss.
Yeah,
no?
mostly, yeah.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, Bassano, you can race really low, but not today.
Not today, right. Yeah, tell me a little bit about the gaggle control dynamics, because usually we see when we are racing, there is a lead group which forms of a lot of pilots who are like pushing the bar consistently. Yeah. But as we are closing in on turn point number 3, we have never seen a more widespread racing field. and especially in a competition of this level where there are more than 70 WPRS up for grabs. We got some of the best names in the sports class, showing our talent out there. The field is fairly anyone's game depending upon the line they choose. So how do the attacks look like when it is so far wide out spread? Because the leading points aren't really the focus right now. The focus is to just make sure you make the goal and don't finish this in a discard at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. I mean, how many landed already now? I think it's 20 to maybe 30
Yeah.
pilots already down.
Yeah, we have another one as we are speaking. So pilot 268 has just
Caro.
given up the day.
Yeah.
Good luck for the coming ones, pilot 268. We are rooting for you in the coming days and hope this discard doesn't disappoint you more than necessary. But yeah, as I said, like when conditions look tough, lead points aren't really the focus. So what do the attacks look like from the ones who really want to focus on the time points in situations like these?
Well, you want to fly a safe game. You want to control a lot of people, if possible. Right now, the leading gaggle pushes out into the flats, which you mostly the whole group is kind of waiting for the first one to go. And at that moment, when finally some people decide to go, you want to be the highest. You want to control them. You want to spread out and find the next good climb there, because it seems rare for now to get good stuff out there. So yeah, controlling is the gift card to winning, maybe. I don't know.
Control theory is the
Controlling,
name of the game, right?
And I mean, yeah, we have this. Normally, you have a lead gaggle, and then here comes the second gaggle, and the second gaggle can really learn a lot about the moves, like from the moves that the first group does, and maybe the mistakes, and then overtake them. And now it seems pretty much like there's one big mass that formed, and everybody's trying to play it safe and get to goal. Essentially.
It's more or less like a conventional cross country, but with a certain bit of a time constraint to it, that the task stops at this. So certain amount of people have to make the goal, and I think for task validity you need at least 30% of the field crossing not just the ESS but also the goal line,
which is the same today here. It's like they have this elevated goal now, and the time stops right up there 2 meters high.
Thank you for pointing that out. I was about to say that this is the very first time in the modern history of paragliding racing competitions that we are able to see an elevated goal being actually put into effect. And for our viewers and listeners who are wondering what exactly is that and why are we finally using it at this time of the year, the reason for that is that we have had some amendments in the rules in the last plenary, where it was unanimously decided to bring down the trim tolerance to 10 millimeters instead of 20 from the manufacturer's recommended outline. So that helps make it a bit more safer. While we are speaking, we have had another bomb out. So bomb outs are coming in thick and fast. So the day is getting exciting regardless for us here at the commentary box. But coming back to our topic, the elevated goal line was another proposal to make the sport a lot more safer, I believe.
Exactly,
So the end of speed section and goal line, as you're explaining, is pretty much the same. Yele, what was the pilot reaction? How did the field talk about this new development at the takeoff? Because obviously this is a experimental phase, I would say, like it has until now it has only been spoken about in the bureaucratic circles, and this today is like the first instance we are actually seeing it being implemented in the field. So what was the buzz about regarding these rules amongst the pilots?
I mean, with the ballast rules, with the noodles, as we call them, and all that stuff going on. I mean, the focus is right now really on the safety and pushing that in a good way and testing possibilities. I think today is a great test for this. For this really nice measure to improve safety, and I think it poses another tactical challenge, which can be very interesting. And I'm really excited how it works out today. I mean, it's the first time that pilots try to cross this kind of goal. And also, it's tactically interesting, like how much you poker on arriving at the right height and how much you get minus points if you get below it, because that's also a possibility that you lose a lot of points when you get a little bit too low. And as Brett told yesterday, it's encouraging more to arrive higher and slower than fast and low. So I think it's a really good thing.
So I think more or less SRS is basically redefining the way we race our wings in the air right now, and it's becoming a bit of a leader or forefront in this direction. You know, while we're talking about changing, I would also like to educate our viewers and listeners about a new rule change which might be incoming in recent times, and that is a conical sort of a cross-section area which will decide the real leading points, because until now we have consistently had leading points which were based on who chases the most optimal line and first further from the rest of the field. So basically the closer you are to the most optimal line to the next turn point, and the further out you are, you get the leading points. But the ones who are pimping you for it and are not really kind of putting in the work do not lose out on a lot, because they kind of see and judge the air. But talking about new rules, I'm coming right from Super Final in Pegalahar a couple of days ago, and there we were talking about something known as real leading points implementation. Basically what that is, that you put a virtual cone in front of you, and if there is another glider inside that cone, then your points automatically get deducted, because the glider in front is marking the air for you. So even though you are kind of close, you are still letting someone else do the hard work. So I think coming in, we are seeing more or less a paradigm shift in the ecosystem of this sport, where a lot of rule changes are not only making it safe but also exciting, not just for the viewers, who of course are having their own ways to track it through Paragliding Live and the live tracking that is available on SRS and Flymaster websites, but also through understanding the tactical challenges that exist when it comes to chasing glory on the podium finishes.
Yeah, it's a really interesting time we're having right now with all those changes and progressions. It's really good. Oh, we're looking there.
I think talking about interesting times, coming back to the race, what's really exciting is that Paul Takats is still hitting the nail on the head as hard as possible and bringing in a few more pilots with him. So, Yele, let's talk about Paul a little bit. You know, he's one of the legends, modern day legends, who has kind of gone there, done it all, doesn't need to prove a point, and yet kind of comes down and races with the field. So how does it influence a competition of this level when budding pilots can look up to someone, watch and learn and get inspired by?
I mean, it's essential. It's the only way. There's the saying, you only get better if you play against better competitors, other players. So this is a game, and you want to improve your game, and so you have to learn from the best. And Paul Takats is one of the best, and it nourishes a lot to being able to fly with him or fly along, and or analyze in the end what moves did he do, and compare what did I miss, where did I gain maybe a little bit. So there's a lot to learn out of that.
I think a lot to learn is the key word here, because SRS is not just giving us new rules to experiment and learn the results of it, but also safety and more or less a stepping stone into the two-liners for anybody who wants to push the limit. So for any of our viewers and listeners who are keen to go out and see what the world of racing paragliding looks like, SRS is the place to be. So,
but because we have such a high level, there's now almost a difficulty to get in. So for racing this SRS, you would need already to do a couple of competitions for learning at your local sites, at your local clubs before, and gain a little bit of points to make it in here, especially at Bassano, where it's like so known for, and is a big, like all Europe wants to come here to race. So it's very well known and overcrowded.
Overcrowded.
It's so much wanted.
Overcrowded is a myth in Europe, because if you go to Asia, you will actually redefine what overcrowding means, be it on the air or in the ground. And I think this gives me a little bit of a trivia that I would like to throw in. I learned in the Himalayas, the majestic, the grandest, the most amazing paragliding playground that is available to the humans. And I think it was my 10th flight, if I'm not mistaken, but it was like one of the first 10, like fairly early on in my flying career. and I was very excited, gung-ho about going out and getting high. And I asked my instructor, I was like, listen, you know, teach me how to thermal. And he was like, let's go thermal. So here I am in the house thermal, cranking the wing up, and suddenly there's another wing, another newbie. I'm not gonna like judge anyone because
Trying the other way around.
there we go.
Shit.
Talking about overcrowding, I had a first mid-air in my very first thermal, but life was beyond words kind to me. It was just his wingtip which clipped my harness. So I think this is a very good time to bring in the gaggle tactics in the house thermal. So you were out there when the race had just started and people were still going to the first turn point unaware of how the conditions will be. How did the crowding or over look like in those conditions before reality hit everyone?
I think most people, because they were kind of floating on the ridge a bit and everybody lost a lot of height already there, it was very like cyclic. So the good people probably were aware. I wasn't enough. I was like, everybody's high to work. So pushing
I love
in.
how humble you are, saying that the good ones were, but you were living in ignorance for a while.
Well,
which is a bliss.
I
I'm
had
not gonna
only
lie.
like 20 minutes in the air getting up to the guys and was like, okay, now it's go time. So I went. But you saw already in the approach that everybody was like unsure, do I get over the first ridge or not? And then like not pushing full bar. And then the moment it was clear, okay, we make it, everybody push bar. So because everybody expected lift and didn't really came. And when we came back and the people who stayed there didn't really get up and we trying to get up, it was a mess, to be honest. And I was looking around me and normally you see at least one or two people turning and climbing a little bit and there was none. There were like one guy just scratching over the trees in front of me, half lithium or something at the top, like the wind was spilling over it anyhow. He got up in a way and some threw themselves in it. I scooped it and tried it out and it didn't give me anything. Maybe I was too late, I don't know. And most people were just scratching around and trying to find something and it was crazy
Paragliding
to
Leif
see that
says, hi.
it wasn't obvious. Like there was not 3 pilots really circling something that went up. And that for
Sigmarsson says,
10-15
replying to
minutes.
Paragliding
Like,
Live.
fake it till
Hi.
you make it can be quite a bliss even in paragliding. But if you turn too much without being in lifty air, then sink can come and then FOMO hits real hard. But I'm pretty sure today is not the day of FOMO, except especially for us. We are sitting here in the commentary box coming to you live and exclusive from Garden Realis in Bassano del Grappa.
Inuvik
And
says,
just to get
my
you caught up
Tenturier
on
is
the
Rich
action,
Marco.
one of the things that I
Inuvik
noticed
says,
in
redeemed
LA in this
highlight.
race is that
My
in
message,
Superfinal, you
100.
rarely see pilots cranking these many turns in a thermal. Usually, they are flying faster wings with much longer glide ratios, so they are able to cover a lot longer distance. But I think one of the testament of today's fact is the amount of turns it is taking to get a meter higher up in the elevation. So what did the average Vario readings look like? Because right now we haven't seen anything more than +2 come, and we are closing in on, let's say, more than half the day. It's already 1500 local time, so it's 3 p.m. or a little bit more than that. So what do you think about the coming next hour or so, which I believe is going to be fairly crucial, because the ones who cover the most distance in that time will still have a chance to get some FTV points which are worth carrying on towards the final classifications.
Yeah, I think the crux will be the crossing of the valley every time. If the thermals that are on the other side are good, easy, you can go low and take it up. But as it felt in the start, I'm not sure about it. We had 2 tandem guys with the streamers, and one or both landed at the bottom of the takeoff because it wasn't obvious. And with the tandem, and the pilots are like crazy experienced. So I just got out. The last pilot behind me was scratching. It wasn't obvious that it worked for me. I don't know, but yeah, stay high. Goddamn, just fucking stay high. Otherwise, you're out. We see all the bomb outs. You see it on the maps. All the people that are walking have the walking sign. They're already on the ground, so it's not obvious.
there's quite a lot of walking signs, and we are consistently getting notifications of pilots landing. So I think more than that, I would like to point out that the race for the leaders is just about at halfway mark. So if they kind of play their cards right, we might see people coming in, crossing right over our heads in some minutes. And we have finally managed to get one of our cameras up and running, and the view that you see right now from this camera is the majestic skyline of Bassano del Grappa, and the view is coming to you from the landing fields. So any single glider that you see coming in your viewfinder is not just a racing pilot but also a free flight pilot, because this place happens to be a mecca,
Yeah.
more or less.
It's
So-
so much.
Tell me, Yele, this place is famous. Why so? Let's keep it simple.
Because what normally works great for a competition with like CCC wings and stuff, you just go dolphining, you know, you just go for a glide, and then comes a little bit, beeps, you go a bit on the brakes, and you go and go, you don't turn. Normally that works well here, normally. But, yeah, not today. But in general, you have a long south-facing, and not only slope, it's a ridge, it's a nice mountain ridge. In the pre-Alps, you have the heat of the southern, how do you say, flatlands, pushing up the hills. So normally you have continuous lift all along. I mean, how long is this ridge? Is 100 kilometers? Is it more?
I think a bit more than
A bit
that.
more than 100
More or
kilometers.
less,
So
yeah.
if you go out and return, you have 8 more. It's a great place,
Yeah.
and a lot of schools from Germany, from all over the place, come here because there's the routine. There are the cars driving you up. There are at least 5 different takeoffs that you can choose from, and it's working already early on, and so just perfect place and friendly people, good hotels, accommodations, and a beautiful town.
Yeah.
Right next to Bassano, you have the Grappa, the most important one for
The
you don't
wineries,
you don't get the landing beer, you
Yeah.
get the landing Grappa here.
landing Grappa. Okay, let's talk a bit about the Grappa, because we hear the word Grappa a lot in this side of the world. So for those of our listeners who are tuning in, because I believe we have pilots from more than 30 countries competing, and unprecedented as it might seem, we had like more than 53 country nationalities registered for the comp. I think the diversity that SRS is bringing into the sport is something to be celebrated, because usually we have seen racing being limited to very small and niche circles. Although the fun class racing or the sport class racing, which is racing for a new generation, is basically opening up new possibilities to people who never knew it existed. So letting our viewers who are tuning in from different side of the world, what is a Grappa and why is it so cool to have Grappa as one of the landing options?
I would like to invite the specialist for Grappa now in. He's called Grappa dell'Amore. He knows exactly what's going on. I don't know. That's the moment to ask Google, I guess. It tastes good. Otherwise, I don't know. What is it made from?
Grappa, right? It's a drink, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a like high percentage liquor. I think made of grapes, but let's see.
I think, you know, one of the most important part is that Italy is famous for wines, and pizza and wines are one of the most staple food for any pilot who wants to land and regain his energy levels, regardless of the FOMO that is hitting him, depending upon the distance that he has covered.
But
So-
let's say about wine, if you're in a wine yard and try to land there, it's quite shitty because it's really bad for your wing and you don't have a lot of space. All those little trees there, and just put them up.
Tell me about the heartbreak, bro. I was in Pagalahar, and believe me, the whole landscape is covered with more than 60 million olive trees. Let that sink in for a second, because I could not visualize what 60 million olive trees would look like. Although the moment I got up in the house thermal and I got about like 1,500 meters above the ground, I was like, hey, that doesn't look so bad. It's flat terrain and there are some dots which you need to avoid. Well, push comes to shove, I get low, I'm scratching, mess up a couple of decision making, and suddenly I have to land in between those two small dots. And to be honest, there is a saying in Spain that there are pilots who have landed in an olive tree and the other ones who are yet to land in an olive tree.
It's a 50-50 chance.
Exactly. So I was one of them, and then I became one of them after a flight.
I think just yesterday I saw a photo of a friend who was at the pre-PVC right now, and also like one half of the glider is just hanging on the other tree and the other side is down. It's like
Indeed.
made the halfway.
Probably we can call it a cultural thing. If you fly in one of these places, you have to try
part of
and be a part of the local culture. So you like it or not, it might happen to you. But coming back to the Grappa terminology, Grappa is basically a brandy, a distilled spirit, which needs a bit of fermentation, and it's not exactly wine, but it's more or less like a leftover with a content of alcohol reaching up to 60% depending upon the character and the notes of the grapes that are being put into the aging of the manufacturing process. With that being said, we finally have the live stream up and running at the landing field, and what you are seeing is the drone visual of the historic Garden Realis Hotel. What I can honestly tell you is that this is one of those places which puts a smile on your face regardless of how your day has been, simply because of the fact that everyone who hangs around here is in love with the art of flight. So talking about the art of flight, we have our leaders crossing in and finally trying to pick up speed. One of the most encouraging part that we see is that the lead gaggle is coming in more than 600 to 700 meters above ground level, which is fairly high, and Paul Tuckett once again showing why he has number 1 in front of his name. That is because he's not just collecting all the leading points, but he's showing people how to actually do it the right way. So Paul Tuckett is on his way to waypoint number 4, after which he has to tag 2 more waypoints before reaching the elevated goal line. Now, if I was to put this in a perspective of percentage, we are closing in on 60 to 70% of the race of course completion. So, Yele, we have 2 more turn points. Conditions seem to be getting better, but the day seems to be coming to an end. What should be the strategy from here on so that we do not see much more of these landing notifications, which are the only constant in today's race, to be honest.
And another one. We should do a drinking game with Grappa.
Right?
And another one. It only gets
That's a
funnier.
fun thing, yeah.
Well, you see they went along the ridge and now they're pushing out to get the turn point, and probably they will search again for the ridge. We see another gaggle. Are they going straight out there? They're in the flats. Yeah, no.
They are indeed.
They're in front and a little bit lower. They didn't do the way back as the Pal did. This is the second gaggle.
Yeah.
Trying another move that the first gaggle didn't. And they're about to, well, meet each other at the next turn point. And the big question is, like, who was faster and more efficient? I mean, they're quite low, about the same height. And the question is, on the way back, the second gaggle now has more information because they came the way they should now come back. So maybe if they know, okay, there was a lifty line, there could be a good thermal, they will take the same way back. But it's another decision to make now, going back to the hills or staying in the flats almost there, the pre-hills.
I think we are finally seeing racing take form in its own shape. So this is where it's finally starting to get exciting, and to be honest, fair marks to the organizers and the task setters, because this is what you really want. You don't want it to be a walk in the park where it's just people running away with leading points and other ones are just catching up or playing that game. You need a bit of a mix of strategy and speed, and that is exactly what we see here, where
Who's first across? Is it Marco Sommerfeld?
Luke Nicole is
No,
coming
go
in
down,
hard.
because where is he? Ah, just behind. Okay.
Luke Nicole
Luke is
and
the first.
Marco Sommerfield are one of the first ones to turn around, and Paul Tuckert's kind of losing his lead for now, for the moment.
Yeah.
But we do see a bigger gaggle following the experienced Paul coming in and tagging in the turn point at the height of almost 1,000 meters above ground level. That's a fairly safe height margin, Yele. And I believe, is this a normal height margin for the flats, or are people playing it extra safe because of how hard it has been so far?
Oh, I'm not sure if the flats work really well. Could you put in the track of Marco Sommerfeld to see if he thermals on the way there towards the turn point that we just tagged here? Currently he's 6th. Let's go back on his track if we see some thermaling there.
So basically we are trying to figure out what the route they have taken, and it seems that the chasing gaggle has just found a really lifty line.
Yeah.
So trying to do something out of the ordinary does pay well, and I think that is what we saw in the first half of the race when Paul Tuckerts went out and tried to break away deeper inside the mountains.
Yeah.
That is something that gave him the early on advantage, and to be honest, not a lot of people were able to chase him, even though right now he is swallowed by the chasing group and finds himself amongst a little bit of traffic. He has collected a fair bit of lead points in the early part of the race, which allowed him to basically go out and solidify his positions. So a lot of these tactics is what will actually form the leaderboards as the competition comes to a close in the later parts of the day. But coming back to the choosing lines part, I think Sommerfield and the gaggle found a really amazing line which allowed them to close in on the lead gaggle, and more or less what we see is a cluster of nearly 30 to 40 wings coming in together, finally working as a team. So there is teamwork.
Inuvik
and we just
says,
hope that
redeemed
it can
highlight,
eventually
my
make it a
message
dream
100.
work, because the next leg might not be that long, but the leg that comes right after that is which can prove to be decisive, because it does not mean that they have to go gung-ho about it and full speed and lose a lot of glide because of the elevated goal that you mentioned. It means that you have to pick and choose your lines. Even though the flats might be working now, no one knows how it will be in next 15 to 20 minutes, and we might be able to see these gliders right above us very soon. Coming back to the live tracking, Yele, I want to talk to you a little bit about the chasing groups, because right now we are talking about the leaders who are basically doing their own thing and collecting everything that is needed. How would a strategy of someone who is left behind look at these stages? Because nobody wants to be in that position, but somehow life makes you face it sometimes. And in those situations, what should a pilot really be looking for, other than just discarding his score for the day? Because that is the easy part, right?
Yeah. Well, lucky enough, now I'm an expert because catching up is my thing. I'm an actor and I'm an artist, so I'm always trying to be creative, and sadly, also in these moments where you shouldn't be, which is in racing often the case. I mean, the second gaggle did a kind of creative move there, cutting through the flats, which was also the direct line, so not that creative, but it worked. And I always hope for stuff like that and try stuff, but mostly wash myself to the back. And then I have to do the catching up game.
Yeah.
And the essential for that one, which is also a good tip for everybody who's starting out in competition and paragliding, XC, doing cross country and all that stuff. Find the pilot who's flying a little bit better than you, and the absolute pro, and put both live trackings on your device, so you have it. If the guy passed 1 hour earlier than you, then often the thermal is not exactly where he turned. Obviously, you have to know there are maybe some changes with the wind, with everything. Maybe another point triggers, but I would say in 60% of the time, knowing the pro turned there and I'm just like 10 or 15 minutes behind him, there's a good chance. For me, it was often like working 60% at the time. The same thing worked, and I know, okay, that low I can go in and get a good height and then continue at that height. This data is crucial for learning how to fly faster and also to catch up. So if you have the live tracking in, if you have data of other pilots in front of you, then use that to your advantage.
Indeed, indeed. And I think I really like the way you said having live comparison helps so much, because obviously, if there's a bit of a longer gap, then there's only so much you can do about it. But just having that tiny bit of visual reference where there might be a lifty air or a bubble which might be worth turning is so helpful. And I think I would like to point it out to our viewers that that was one of the main reasons why live tracking was deferred by Flymaster, because when team dynamics came into play, and especially at higher level competitions such as the Super Finals or the World Cups or the World Championships, which are being hosted by FAI, a lot of teams were kind of helping each other by giving them live feedback through
Radio.
the competitor track
also.
analysis. So they might be coming under scrutiny at a higher level comp, but at a lower level comp, these can be a great learning tool, because deep inside you are not really threatening the leadership positions. You are still trying to learn and catch up itself. But I think this is where I'd like to also mention the SRS live tracking, which is probably one of the first ones in the sport of paragliding which does not have deferred live delay available to the spectators, and it only comes with a delay of 37 seconds, which is far less than the Flymaster one, which comes at a delay of almost 4 minutes.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yes. Along with that, SRS also has a constant live text commentary. So for those of you who might have other things to catch up to, where the audio feed or the visual feed isn't the most easiest ones to follow, just head over to srs.live. We have very capable Ruth Jessop handling the SRS live commentary, and she comes from her experience in the paragliding World Cup circles, where she did the same and educated the audiences of what exactly happens on a racing field. Along with that, I would like to come back to another pilot called Tyr Goldsmith. Tyr is the pilot number 89 for today and happens to be one of the flyers who will be testing out the new BGD light two-liner. Tigra, right, there we go. So
they look nice. They have this eye on top of their wings. I was like, oh, there's one, and there's another one. I think the son, Mark Janaway, is also flying one.
In fact, Mark was flying one, but he bombed out fairly early on in the race. So
with our live streaming.
That was correct. We saw a live bomb out and a live heartbreak and the frustration. So we'll be sure to root Mark up and cheer him up for the coming days. Mark, yes, you have our feelings and hopes with you. We hope you climb up to the leaderboard with your brand new Tigra. But tell us about the wing a little bit, Yele, if you can. Of course, BGD is very known to have their wings very extravagantly colored and, you know, going out there and making a statement by the visual form factor itself. But when it comes to the technicalities, this is the first time they are exposing their wing in this setting. So how did the Tigra perform out of whatever time you had to see it in the air?
Well, I think today the performance is a lot on the pilots because the moments you go on full bar are rare. But for the moment that I was only like on 70% bar, or we were doing that first glide, the Tigra did a good job. It really went for it. And yeah, it was easily, I would say he has the same tempo, the same speed as the photons next to it. Obviously, I can't compare this. I don't know which one has the ML and which one has the MS and so on. And so and this submarine makes a big difference and all that stuff. So hard to say, but it was looking good. And I'm very eager to see how the pilots like score in the end. It is the light version of the Cure 3, which is also had some really good competition results. Also with the team pilots from BGD. So I don't know, but I just want to get my hands on it and try it out, honestly. It looked pretty good in the air, and it could easily be at the same speed as the other persons there.
Yeah, I think as the competition progresses in the coming days, we're going to see some really hot action amongst the brands, I would say, because this is a Skywalk sponsored event, and Skywalk is bringing a battery of factory pilots coming in, with one of the finest ones being that of Marcus Anders. Marcus Anders is coming in from fresh of his PwC Super Final experience, and there
he's
hot. He's hot, and he's coming in blazing with his recent performances on an Enzo. So I believe for a pilot of that stature to come down on a two-liner and have another competitor come in there, it's gonna be really exciting.
Where's he in the field right now?
Marcus Anders is in fact not joining us today.
Oh.
He is still traveling. That is because Super Final finished only yesterday.
Yeah.
And a little bit of
it's a little shame because you don't have the how do you say that? You could one task. Normally you can say like one task you put away.
Yeah.
But it doesn't exist as the SRS. They don't do this here.
Do we not have discards in SRS?
No, not in this event, as I heard.
Okay, so maybe this might be a new information. We will reconfirm that in coming days. But usually, as per the FTV rules of scoring, there is a discard available. But we are seeing a lot of paradigm changes in the sport when it comes to making it safer, more exciting, and more viewable for the viewers.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, stay excited. There's a lot of information coming to you. Along with that, a lot of new feeds that are promised your way, because we do have our batteries up and running, and the internet connection is as good as it should be. And more importantly, we have the leaders going pretty fast on their way to the second turn point.
On the deep line, are we?
That is correct. They are finally playing it safe all over again, where they're going back to the hills. But to be honest, some of them are actually finding themselves low one more time, and another pilot in a string of notifications of landing, which has been quite heartbreaking to watch here from the commentary box, because we are losing people to talk about, man.
Yeah. But I can tell you something about the two guys in the leading gaggle. We have Marco Sommerfeld and Simon Steiner there, who are both right behind the leader there. And they're both Gin pilots. And I think they just got their team pilot, GTO 3 now. And I'd say, like, we had the Photon, like, really leading out, but then came the GTO 3, which pretty much crushed it. Why?
Crushed it, yeah, that's the right word.
Because it climbs better. It's not really faster necessarily, but it climbs better, and it's not a pain in the ass to turn like the Photon is. And now comes the Tigra, and I'm so
Paragliding Live
where it
says,
settles in
"Hey,
there
Inuvik, welcome to the
comparison.
stream.
But
Today
yeah,
had
let's
some
go back
starting
to,
issues.
Simon Steiner
Tomorrow we'll
and,
be seeing
Marcus
more
Sommerfeld,
action."
Both big like good friends of the Swiss flying scene, and they are crushing it in Switzerland, at least in the sports class. So both are really competitive and pushing each other, a little bit like siblings, like they were like brothers. Yeah, and also now again where I expected them to see them right there in the front, and I think he's really going deep in it. Yeah, he's where is he? There. Yeah, very deep. One thermal in the front, really pushing for it. I think he using? No, it's other people pushing with him. Okay. Sometimes you can use the people that come to the next turn point, and you crossing them, and they do a thermal. You can use that data to get an advantage. So really interesting now how they push again, like with the low hills or the higher terrain, like Paul is doing now.
I think talking about data, like this is probably, I don't know if it was a tactical demand from the task organizers, but this is the most informative field of play that we have seen with gliders spread wide over and also on the ground. Like you can basically see where people are bombing out in chunks and where people are managing to somehow climb and figure out how to get high and stay high. And for those of you who are following our live feed, the landings that you are seeing in the Garden of Garden Realis are not the comp pilots. That is the most amazing free flying community that we have in this side of the world, where there are people constantly taking off and landing throughout the daylight hours in Bassano del
Inuvik
Grappa.
says, howdy,
Talking about
Inuvik
the field
says,
that
redeemed,
again,
highlight
we
my
have
message,
pilot
100.
number 38, Christian Durand. Now, yeah, like Christian has been a bit of a force to reckon with in the past few years or something. He comes in from flying a fighter jet.
Damn.
So he's used to flying fast. A bit too fast, actually.
He's still in the air, so he's doing a good job
Fair
braking a bit.
I think his progression has been the opposite one. He went from crossing the speed of light at a few Machs for a living, tuned it down to commercial flying, and then finally has come down to the slowest form of free flight.
Maybe
aviation.
the hot air balloon is a little bit slower, maybe, but we are the slowest ones.
Indeed. But when it comes to racing and proving, I think the way Christian himself has kind of progressed as a pilot is very encouraging to see, that the possibilities that exist in this form of competition, because SRS is racing for a new generation. And for the viewers who are joining us right now, we are coming to you live and exclusive from the second SRS competition happening in 2026, which is also the Skywalk edition in the town of Bassano del Grappa, with more than 133 pilots joining in from
Inuvik says,
almost
I imagine the
33
S32
countries.
guys
So
don't even know we are
diversity
watching.
in numbers
Inuvik
is being
says,
celebrated
redeemed highlight,
at this
my
competition,
message 100.
be it when it comes to the game of equipment or bringing in pilots from various sides of the globe. So Yele, I quickly want to get your idea. When the field is so diverse, paragliding usually is the one which is getting the most benefit. So is there a possibility that we can try and bring this kind of an ecosystem to higher level wings, or is the sports class racing here to stay and to be celebrated more than what we have seen in open and triple Cs until now?
I heard a lot of top pilots are really open to fly sport class gliders, and would welcome the extra safety and concentrate more on the flying part of being a good pilot, not only having the gear. I mean, just if you take the submarine problematic or the whole discussion about that, it's a great advantage. Like aerodynamics, so much better and everything, but you don't see shit on the sides. Underneath, you don't see anything. You're so inclined. It's like safety-wise, for the performance, they were in the last 5 or 10 years a lot of steps back in a way, and for safety, not so much. So I really like now that the pendulum goes to the other side, and we're rechecking all the options, how to make it safer. Also for the submarines to really look at the protection they're using, which is a bare minimum mostly, and then
Probably non-existent.
Yeah, they have this.
It's a
this
wafer
thing.
thin choroid protector. Which
Exactly, and the choroid piece of that, if it goes a bit sideways, it's not protecting you.
It's rock solid.
Yeah, and it's tilting and it doesn't work for you. And I mean, paragliding, you don't fall straight on your ass like it's tested to.
Yeah.
But yeah, so improvement in the harnesses, improvements in the wings, and as Gregor Maurer said, also like he doesn't want to fly the Enzo or the X1 or these high performance gliders, which you have to keep in catch all the time, and half of the time you're scared flying it. You want to fly and enjoy it, and then make tactical cool decisions to get an advantage.
Yeah.
That's what it's playing chess, not being scared of dying. but having fun.
Well, very well put, Yele. I'm so glad you mentioned it in such clear words. And talking about Kriegel, like he's one of the inspiration that our sport has seen over the years. And I would like to point out a recent, let's say, a knowledge incident that somebody told me about Kriegel was that 2024 Super Final, if I'm not mistaken, was happening in his hometown in Switzerland. And there was a field which was racing with Enzos and submarines as the norm. By then, these cocoon type harnesses were considered a necessity if you want to be on the podium. Yet Kriegel, as amazing of a pilot as he is, was using the setup of Enzo and an Impress 4. And believe me, even with that setup, he was able to climb on to the third step of the podium when the rest of the field was racing with a sub. So what I really want to say is that yes, these equipment do make you look cool. They do give you a little bit of extra edge, which comes in a +1 point of the glide. Although that does not mean that it becomes a necessity. And I would like to tell you,
we're talking about Kriegel here. Not only Kriegel somewhere in Colombia, but Kriegel in his home turf. You know, he knows that fucking area like nobody else.
Indeed.
But yeah, it was a great move to see that it's possible.
Yes,
totally.
And you know, while we are talking, we see Max Seller giving out a shout out to Tim. Max, we will be sure to pass on your message to Tim when he lands. So keep the love coming for everyone else as well who's joining us on Paragliding Live. I'm your host Aninder Singh. I'm joined with my co-commentator Yele. Yele happens to be a theater artist. Yele, that's quite a bit of a transition, but art is art. So how do you more or less combine these two passions, and how does it feel? Because one look at your website, which is Jelle Johansen, that means JEELEJOHANSEN. I'm blown away, man. I'm like, this is piece of magic, and you look as professional as ever. So what is your story like?
Oh damn, you want the whole biography now? Better not. No, I just studied the whole theater stuff. Whatever. Oh.
To be honest, our field is spread wide and large. So
but are we reaching the next turnpoint now?
We are somewhere along the way, and I think the easiest way there to explain our viewers is to put on some trackers. So first of all, to do that, for anybody else who's interested in doing this back home, what you have to do is go to the website called lt.flymaster.net. The moment you're on that website, you will see a lot of groups. So you have to go to live group, and then you have to pick up SRS. In one of these options, I cannot show it to you right now because we have already joined the group, so I'll have to leave the group and then go in. But the moment you click on this option up there, you get to join the SRS group, and from here, once you're in there, you can click on the ranking. And for example, if Paul Takats is here and you want to follow him, you click on his name and you click track. So now we should see a Paul Takats track being activated very soon. Sometimes the website does take its own bit of time to work, and as we see, Paul Takats track has been activated. So Yele, right now Paul is, again, you know, if you look at his track log, you can see that this guy has basically explored every single possibility that he possibly could in a day like today. So coming in with an elevated goal line, do you think more or less we'll have a different strategy, or is the fun factor of going full bar to ESS still the norm of the game?
On other days, I would say it's the norm of the game. But today, if you take a look at the turn point right before the goal, it's out in the flats. And there are some little hills that trigger a little bit. I tested it yesterday, flying out, trying to get something. But there's no guarantees. And the guys will have felt it before going onto the flats, if there's stuff going off or not. I don't see them flying the direct line, so I think it's not that good in the flats. So I think they should need to make a lot of heights in the mountains, in the hills, and then push out. The big question is, are they doing the valley crossing and towards the Bassano takeoffs, or are they just taking the biggest height possible before Bassano de Grappa and then pushing out into the flats on a more direct line? That's the big question that we will see now after, I think the first two pilots have now touched the turn point, the outermost there in the west, on the west side of the track.
All right, guys, I think we will be taking a little bit of a pause here, because from what you can see in front of the visuals here is that it's a blue thermal day, but we do have some cumuluses forming on the left side of your screen, which happens to be further out there. So stay with us. More updates coming soon, and we will be bringing you live and exclusive action on the way to the last turn point. So stay excited, stay tuned. I'm your host Anindra Singh, and I'll be back with you very soon.
Thank you.
redeemed highlight, my message 100. Paragliding Live says, who are the S3? Inuvik says, typo. Inuvik says, redeemed highlight, my message 100.
Hello and welcome back to the final part of the broadcast. I'm your host Aninder Singh and you are joining us for the second SRS racing competition, Skywalk edition, right here in Bassano del Grappa. We are coming to you from the landing field of Garden Reales. In the backdrop, you can see the whole field landing. So without further ado, let's walk a bit closer and get the first reactions from the field. While we do that, Yele, we have seen the game since the first part of the day and we finally see it ending. Deep down, did we expect so many people coming in and landing in the goal?
I mean, we're really happy because before it was a lot of notifications that everybody bumps out.
Yeah.
And now they're really quick back here. That's really amazing to see. And coming in hot from all the directions. It's really impressive, really nice.
It is. And I think if we just want to show the people the view in front of us, there's nothing more magical than seeing these flotation, I wouldn't call them devices, but like
these wings and these colors and the sky confetti.
Canoeing in the sky and coming in, it's so magical. And right now we have the landing area in front of us. This is where most of them are packing. So let's try and get a reaction from one pilot who has just landed. Who are we joined with and where are you from?
God, I'm such a fan.
You are?
Yes.
Thank you, thank you.
Wow, I mean, you do such good interviews. Oh
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. That's very kind of you to say.
Continue, please, because every episode is valuable to everybody.
Oh, it
all flight community.
warms my heart to say that, and you happen to be in one of those episodes right now. So
in an interview.
Yes,
you are
my chance.
you are joining us live, where we have been covering this competition since the beginning of the gaggle of the start. So who are we joining? Who's joining us?
My name is Aurelius. I'm in the Gin Team 1, and we just made the goal, and Marco with me also. So we're. It was actually pretty difficult than we expected. Actually, that furthest turn point was tricky because it was some headwind, and actually we had to battle a bit. So, but it was interesting. So interesting.
Aurelius, I want to talk a little bit about the tactics that were happening in the sky.
Yeah.
So let's say the start was slower than expected. The thermals were not going more than +2.
Yeah.
What did the attacks look like in a day like this?
Well, it happened actually more aggressive than I expected, you know. People were pushing along the ridge, just didn't care that the lift is, basically the climb is so weak actually. But at some point, we saw like Palace pushing ahead and, you know, everybody just gets like...
Inspired?
Yeah, absolutely, just go, you know, and that's it. But it actually, I mean, this whole race today was... how to say, very, it was pushy. It didn't matter to anyone. I mean, the level right now in the SRS is really high.
Yeah.
And you get so many good pilots here today and in this competition. So I think this is, and also we had this elevated goal for the first time. It was interesting to come in with the new rules, and but this is gonna be good. So I'm looking forward to the whole next week. So yeah, upcoming. So
Indeed. And I think elevated goal was one of the highlights because this was the first time in paragliding competition it has been practiced.
Yeah.
So when the final glide was coming in, how did that look like? Were people still pushing the full bar as they used to, or did we finally manage to change the mindset of the racing pilots
no, I
to
mean,
be a bit more
the pushing is
safety?
still there. The pushing is still there, but I think a bit more cautious maybe.
Yeah.
People are already thinking like we had to set up our devices, of course, correctly, and but still the pushing is there. But I think maybe more mindful about the
That's
speed bar.
good. As long as we're more mindful,
Yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
enjoy it more.
Because I've been in Brazil in World Championship and I saw Bram, and I think that's Bram's accident, and I mean we would not like to repeat to anyone like this tragedy. So
Indeed.
I think this is a good decision we made in Portugal, and we voted for this change, and I think it's a good rule to let's try it out. And so far it looks like we are all coming in a safe altitude, you know, so well, safe. Let me safe everyone. So
Yes, let's stay safe. Let's have fun and let's race sports class.
yeah,
That's
Well,
the name of the game.
yeah, absolutely. Well, here you go.
Aurelius, thank you so much. I'm not going to hold you any longer
No,
because I
it's
know how warm these
I'm
submarines
steaming.
get.
Thank you. Really big fan.
Thank you, Aurelius. It's the honor is mine, and I'm so glad to create content which people appreciate. So keep flying, and I'll keep creating.
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right, have a good one. See you tomorrow. All right, guys, so that was Aurelius from the Gaggle telling us exactly how much fun it was to be in the air and make it count, mostly with the elevated goal line. But without bumping into any more pilots, let's go chase another one where we can get some live reactions. While we're doing that, we see a whole field of wings landing behind us, and if I ask my cameraman to just pan around a little bit towards the landing area, that is where all the packaging is happening. So without further ado, I'm gonna go a little bit closer to T to talk to him about the new Tigra. Boys, hello. Welcome, my name is Aninder and we are covering the whole competition on a live stream. So we've been following you the past 3-4 hours. Tyr, I guess you were flying your brand new creation from BGD. Would you like to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's this is the first competition we're doing with it, and it's actually not even released yet. We're releasing it at the end of the week, I think. It's already certified, but only in the M size.
Yeah.
And it's like I mean, at the beginning we want to do a Q3 Lite, but in the end we kind of kept working on the glider more and then kind of tweaked it to make it even more enjoyable.
Yeah,
So in the end we're kind of happy, super happy with this machine.
that's so nice to hear. Let's talk a little bit about today's Gaggle dynamics, because obviously, you know, when there's a new name in the game, people are a bit more kind of cautious, I would say, or a bit they want to see what it is. So how did the Gaggle respond to the beautiful eye on the sky kind of a thing that you guys have on the thing?
Well, I think at the beginning we all had a bad decision and we all ended up really low. And
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not managing, I'm not flying well or anything. But then we could easily catch up during the whole race.
Yeah.
To in the end, I think I ended up third at the goal line. So I think it's really competitive machine, and
Yeah.
definitely the speed is there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, amazing, man. I think we'll be looking forward to your performances coming days, and until then, yeah, keep rocking. Looking forward.
thank you.
Thanks, man. You're welcome. All right, guys. So finally, we have kind of come to the end of today's session here, where a lot of pilots are kind of landing out. So we do have majority of the first lead Gaggle coming in and landing at the goal. So we're gonna quickly head over back to our co-commentator and have a little word with them and see what exactly are they talking about. But meanwhile, we do see one of the legends of the game, Paul Takats, standing right there. So without further ado, let's go and get some expert reactions from Paul himself. Paul, welcome to the live stream happening in the SRS. Good to see you.
Good to see you, man.
What an amazing race today, Paul. Tougher.
I was doing so good, but in the end I hesitated and I gave away a lot of positions.
It's a part of the, I think, paragliding thing. But let's say the day started a bit slower than expected. Did you have any strategy in the beginning which kind of you were working on to the end?
Yeah, well, I just tried to be high, but that was not the case in the very beginning. But I managed to escape back to the other side among the first ones, and then I was on the tails of Pepe, I think. It was him. And I caught up with him, and we were quite far out for most of the time. And just at the second waypoint out towards the flats, behind us, the gaggle found a pretty good thermal, so they caught us. But that was still not the problem. I just made a mistake in the end. Otherwise, I think I could have been top 3 with the leading points. But that's the game, huh?
Well, it was a day a bit more difficult for everyone, so, you know.
Sorry, I need my hat.
Yes. Indeed, indeed. Yele, the field is coming in, you know, thick and fast, and we kind of are getting the reactions from everyone. Do you think there is a strategy for pilots who are still kind of on the way back to still have the time points, or is this day pretty much discarded for the rest of them now?
You get the distant points.
Yeah.
The time points. Only thing that matters is still keep your place or make like surpass, how you say that, depass some people if you can.
Yeah.
But with a special goal, I think nobody is trying any experiments today, and they will just try to make still a good placement where they are.
Yes.
I mean, catching up now would be a miracle.
Indeed, indeed. Paul, I would like to talk a little bit about the elevated goal. Would you like to say something about it? Because I think this is the first time in paragliding competitions the elevated goal has been tried. So,
yeah, that's why I probably gave away the first place, because I had the goal to glide, but too low. And in the end, I went back to the mountain, and that was a waste of time. And basically, all the 4 kilometers going to goal, it was lifting all the way. So even those who were not gonna make it, they made it with plenty of water.
okay.
But you never know. It was into the wind, so I was a bit panicking.
Well, you win some, you lose some, you know, and sometimes you learn some. So I think it was this was a new rule where we had to basically learn a lot, and it was a good learning experience even for us here watching you guys on live tracking. It was quite fun. So
Good to see you, man.
yeah, likewise, man. Good luck for the coming days. And
I was sending you pictures, but there was no reception.
I know, the reception was rubbish, wasn't it?
well, good luck for the coming days,
I
Paul.
send
We'll
it
see you
now.
around.
It's okay. Yeah, if you've got some, that'd be really cool. Thank you.
Yele, let's try and walk
Shall we
back.
get the gin team? Do you want to impress
The Gen team, yeah, sure. Let's do that. Sure. Let's walk over to the Gen team.
At the moment?
When you arrive next to me, alright?
Give me the best. Give me the best.
It's like
Give me the best.
a lot of
How was it in the
emotions
leading
happening
gaggle?
here. You know.
So, well, it was super hard today. If you went below like 800, it was super tough to get efficient lines, and it was also hard to get good climbs. So at some point you had to invest. Somehow we managed to get into goal. It was a tough day.
As you can see.
Yeah, pretty sweaty.
What do you say?
Yeah, same for me. You can not see it
They
like
did a
this.
very, very, very nice move. So we went around the edge like ridge flying, and the last turn point here in the flats they took very direct, and I was very surprised when I saw them like tanking it first. I was like, okay, crazy.
Yeah, we saw that on live tracking. We were like, oh yeah, that's the moment we want to see. The second gaggle like does the optimized line and is in.
Yeah,
We were
well,
there.
Yeah, I was on the second gaggle, and we spent some time, flew to the flats, and
together. So
and we went together. And yeah, it was such a nice feeling to see the leading gaggle. Actually, we tagged the turn point first before the leading gaggle, so it was a nice feeling, best feeling ever you can have.
But it was kind of a gamble. We was together on the middle of the flats just after the last turn point, and we was like, okay, we find a super good thermal at this moment. And we decided to just follow the optimal line, and it worked out.
So you're happy you're on for the rest of the week now? You're ready?
Not the rest of the week.
No,
For now.
For today. Tomorrow we do it again.
Let's try that. Very good. Any last words?
No, I'm good.
All right.
Happy for tomorrow.
Happy. They're happy. Let's go for it.
Happy vibes all around, people. So basically, just if we are looking at this competition, it has started off to a banger. I would say the task started slower than expected, but finished better than planned as well. And the elevated goal line eventually kind of playing a bit of a havoc with some tactics, because obviously you try and prepare for some things, but surprises always exist. So we will be bringing you more surprises that come as the day progresses, as the competition progresses. So we'll basically...
Oh shit. Okay.
That was not the surprise we were planning to bring you, but again, things happen. But Yele, while we are doing this, the day one is finally coming to an end, and I think we are closing in at around 4:30 in the evening. So when it comes to the maximizing of tasks at an average competition like this, what do you think is the ideal length of a task where we can keep an average of more than 30? Because I think that is what these wings are truly capable of at this moment.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm not sure how to answer that, but I think days like these, where you go slow, it's hard to get a 30 out of it, but because of all the people around you, you have the chance to have the data, as we said before, choose the best line, as we heard, like the other caught up on a nice optimized line that nobody tried first, and finally it worked. With the right line, and the right data, and the right tracking maybe of the right persons, you're able to still make a good... I think we will see some 30s here still.
Yeah, probably. I think that should be a norm, especially when you're racing to goal.
When you're racing, normally you get the 40s, but at a day like this, maybe we have to drop a bit lower.
Yeah, and I think kudos to the task committee, because a lot of pressure is existing on the organizers to set the task right. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I'm coming in fresh from the super final, where the task committee made a tiny bit of a fiasco, and I wouldn't say that they had we have any reason to blame them. It was just that every human can make an error, and they did so, where the last task of the competition, everyone bombed out but one pilot. Let that sink in. They had set a task over 120 kilometers, and during the final glide, can you believe it, more than 60 pilots bombed in the ESS to the goal section. So it was a massive heartbreak for the whole field in together. So,
and hard landings, I guess, also, because if you're pushing that hard, fuck.
So a lot of credit has to go to the organizers who allow us to bring in such beautiful views to you, unrestricted, right here from the mecca of paragliding. And with that, I would like to take you to our little setup and show you how we do it. If you've been liking what's coming your way, do consider liking, subscribing, and sharing Paragliding Live. There's a fair bit of work that goes in between this production, and doing this remote and on-site is definitely not one of the easiest ones. So we will be sure to bring you live, uninterrupted action in days to come, and for now we will leave you with the visuals from the landing field.